Here we're looking particularly at the way COVID-19 vaccination messaging was delivered in Barcelona, basically in 2021, but some of the data comes to the current moment in 2022. And we're looking at this from the perspective of translation policy to know, as Rena Maynard suggests, whether language policy does indeed include a translation policy. Now, in the case of Catalonia and Spain in general, we know, everybody knows here at the conference, that Spain has a system whereby Catalan and Spanish are co-official in Catalonia. The Catalan policies are very much in tune with normalizing the use of Catalan, and the concept of normalization was borrowed very directly from the case of French in Quebec, when it purports to restore the language to a level it once had, and that would be of equality with Spanish or more, according to the policy maker, I guess. In Catalonia, public education privileges immersion in Catalan. The policy is one of immersion, and as you may be aware, there are currently debates and judicial proceedings concerning how many hours of Spanish students may have in their schooling. I'm not going into that debate. That doesn't concern us here. That means that immigrant families have the children going to school, and those children will learn Catalan and be subject to a degree of immersion in Catalan and will come out speaking it. And immigrants, the parents, are also encouraged to learn Catalan. Classes in the language are free. However, most immigrants prefer Spanish for perhaps logical reasons. It enables greater mobility, greater employment search within Spain and beyond Spain. It's one of the world's great languages. So we have a conflict there between Catalan and Spanish over the language spoken by immigrants coming into the country. Now that's important because in the case of vaccination information, vaccination only works if you get to a very high percentage of the population. And that means you have to have those immigrant families on board. So what do you do? What language do you use to address them? What is interesting is that among the foreign population, extranjera here, 65.8%, so 66%, say that they understand English. So if you want to reach that particular group, English is going to be your first port of call, and it can function to a certain extent, although not entirely, as lingua franca. So here we are focusing the analysis on the use of English. Now, the policy initiatives in the area of healthcare concern what's done on the ground. It concerns actual practice and funding applied for practice, but is not readable from the current language policy. That is, people have gone ahead and done things to address this problem. How do you communicate with the immigrant population, even though it doesn't fit in with the established policy? If we look around for policy, we do, however, find this initiative, which is very recent here, which calls for a digital transformation, okay, as in the name of the ministry, and in fact, and the aim here is to have new digital public services incorporating the technologies of artificial intelligence and natural language processing. And we don't know exactly what that last phrase means. AI, we know. Natural language processing, what could that involve? Now, when we look at the information provided to immigrants currently, We do find that the Barcelona City Hall, el Ayuntamiento, provides information in Catalan, Spanish, English, and French. And this is the information you get. Everyone over the age of 5 can be vaccinated. A booster vaccination is also administered. Request a vaccination appointment, click on that, and you're into Spanish. And click on that, and you do get some information. Let's see what you get. That one, sorry, Spanish and Catalan for that one. Click on the second one there, and we get into this site, which is what interests us, where you have machine translation. You can see Google translated to English, and it's available for Catalan, which is the source language here, Spanish, Google Translate, English, Google Translate, French, Google Translate. And childhood vaccination is fine. Infographics, not too sure, but we could click on there to find out. The visuals obviously don't get translated. And you can get something called a record dose, which if you're just an English speaker, you have no idea what that might be. So we're into the world of machine translation as the application of a non-policy or the absence of policy. Okay, those are the two things I wanted to point out. There is a warning about the use of machine translation, which you can see here. Unfortunately, the warning talks about the Catalan language versions, which happens to be the only version that is not done with Google Translator. So I'm sorry, but even in the warning, there is a quite obvious mistake. Now, there are all sorts of interesting errors around in that, and I'm not going to go into them today because we will be addressing this in a session on Friday. We're going to look at the problems in the machine translation. What's intriguing here is that when you click around, you eventually get to a human translated text, which is here. It's not badly translated either. But we're looking now in June 2022, and this one dates from October 2021, and the vaccination process is now into the booster shot stage, and not the first and second. So it's just hopelessly out of date. You're not going to get any valid information there. So to sum up, we have found no formal policy concerning healthcare communication in non-official languages. What we do see that translations in English could work as a lingua franca, addressing some 65% of the population. The use of machine translation seems to make sense in terms of time and timeliness in getting the information to people, but the existence of errors in the machine translation is not likely to inspire trust in anyone. The one thing we know about behavior change communication, like the vaccination information, is that if it's not trusted, it is not effective. So in fact, any language defects may decrease from the efficiency of the message. Human translation here suffers from being out of date because it takes time to do, and this has been a fast-moving object. What is obviously missing here in the application of a non-policy is a practice that knows how to use machine translation, how to integrate it into translation memory software, how to do post-editing with translation memory software, and to do it in such a way that the updates, and that includes the daily updates, are very quickly and very efficiently put out, not just in English, but in all the languages that Google offers, or indeed DeepL or any other of the systems. That is, we have found absolutely no evidence of any awareness of translation technology, and we would judge the actual translation practice to be fairly precarious in its possible effects.